once we get to obviously the top level of play. It's those small little adjustments which players start to make. And we saw, of course, a couple of really efficient openings in the last game and this game as well from you, Showtime. You played very efficiently 2-gate Robo Twilight openings, fast blinks, really fast warp prisms. So you were kind of able to skip out on having to be like, you know, overly safe by just building default units because you were constantly keeping an eye on what Dia was up to. So are you ready in this replay?
Yep, I got it up.
All right, 3, 2, 1, and play. So let's dive on into game number 2. Awesome. All right. So, okay, cool. Just getting my notes up, sorry. They're a bit down there.
That's all right.
I did forget to ask you in that last game. Damn it, it was on the other page. I was on, flew onto the second page of my my notes that I wanted to talk about. It was about abandoning your 4th base. There was this really cool moment in that last replay, which I should have paused on a bit more. You guys would have noticed it. We were on Showtime's camera when he chose to do it, where you basically you got pushed back behind your 4th, and you just kind of were like, nope, I can't fight here, and you just pulled all your probes away, abandoned it, and just pulled back to the other 4th, which you were already, or your 5th base, sorry, which you'd already started expanding to. And that was a really cool maneuver, and it was specifically exceptionally smart. Just because of the way Blink Disruptor plays out, right? I know I've heard you before say that Disruptors are like a really big comeback unit. Do you think it's like how do you make that decision to abandon a base? Like, is there a point where you just say there's no way I'm getting an efficient fight on this angle?
Like in that situation, like if I remember correctly, my mechanics were kind of failing me a bit. Like I miss hotkeyed some stuff, and just like things were going a bit bad for me. And so I just like thought I had Tempest on the way, and like I don't really need the 4th base. Like I have like another one coming up pretty much, so I kind of just like was like, yeah, I got Tempest. Let's just not fight there and play it from there. Like it was like not a big sacrifice really, because like my natural was still mining decently, and yeah, I think I was just like getting a tech advantage by sacrificing and not losing the game there.
I think that's a really... It's something where you say it kind of nonchalantly, and like obviously that's because you're so experienced. You've done this in hundreds of games before, where you just say, well, it's not worth defending this. But just to elucidate for the viewers as well, I mean, it really works with Disruptor's positioning is everything, right? And the only way you could defend it was by walking up that choke into your 4th base. So it was like, well, yeah, Disruptors can always come back, even if you lose 20 supply of Stalkers, or even if you lose a bit of economy. It's not like, say you're just playing Stalker Immortal versus Stalker Immortal. If your opponent has like 7 more Stalkers than you, it's really bad, right? Because it's just the same armies fighting, but and they just deal flat damage. But with Disruptors and the way the splash damage works, you can be down a few Disruptors, down a good handful of Blink Stalkers. Sometimes you can be way down in supply, and because of the nature of the explosive splash damage, as long as you keep up enough of a core army, so you've got pretty much constant Disruptor shot zoning, you've got a decent ball of Stalkers so they can't just dive on you, like you can come back in almost any situation, right? So it's always worth kind of playing it a little bit calmer and saying, you know what, sometimes it's worth just sacrificing a base, because as long as I stay alive, I'm going to have heaps of opportunities to come back later on. Of course, that game you also had Tempest, so you actually did have the tech advantage as well, which makes it an even easier decision for you, I guess.
Yeah, like sacrificing economy, as long as you have your army and all your Disruptors, is totally fine.
All right, so we're up to the exciting parts of this game now. You open up with 4 Adepts. You've just sniped down one of his Adepts. Or was that both? I think you got both, actually. You did get both.
I killed both, yeah.
So 4 Adept opening here on Frozen Temple. Now, he opened 2 Adept into 2 Stalker. What happens if he opens 4 Stalkers? Does this get harder? Does he push you back? Do you have to kind of try and avoid the Stalkers on the map? Like, what happens if he just goes 4 Stalkers really early?
It's not ideal, but it's still fine. Like, it gets tricky if you go like 4 Adepts and then Stargate. But if you go for Robo, you can still like get Immortal out and you can like defend pretty much anything. Like, usually you catch the first 2 Adepts of him, so you already have like a unit advantage, and like you can kind of like keep him on his side of the map because you have 4 Adepts and he has like only Stalkers and a Marshal to defend. So he has to commit like a lot to aggression if he wants to be aggressive. Or like you can also just go back with the adepts, also fine, I think.
Okay, and does it kind of hurt you if you can't get the scouting info? If he opens like 4 stalkers immediately, like skips the 2 adepts, you can't get any kills early, or do you feel like you always would find a way to get the scout off in the main base, even if there were 4 stalkers out very early? Or like, I think you'd always get the first shade into the main probably, but wouldn't you get chased home after that? Do you feel like it would be a bit frightening being very blind after? I mean, the adepts aren't really very good in a frontal fight, right? Until they get the glaives. So do you think that kind of handicaps you if he were to do something like that? Or was it just something where it's like no one was opening 4 stalkers in the current meta, so you didn't even have to worry about it?
Like people did 4 stalkers, and it's definitely one of the openings you don't want to face if you go for adepts, because it's still a bit scary, you know. Like
Yeah.
it could be like a 3-gate, just like mass stalker oppression. You don't really want to face that, but I was like pretty sure that they would go for like 2 adepts, 2 stalker, because like the most standard opening back then.
Cool. And that's the thing is, right, I kind of feel like there is like an ounce of metagaming there, like a small amount, where it's not the best if he goes 4 stalkers, right? It's not like you lose the game or anything, but maybe you end up in a slightly more awkward position. Whereas what we've seen this whole early game, and this time I'd love to just zoom back. If we can go back to like the 3-minute mark and sync up, because I really want to emphasize this point, because this is what's so beautiful about this opening, is how you just control the vision the entire early game. So you got 3 minutes?
Yep, got it.
All right, play. 3, 2, 1, go. And yeah, so you're kind of just chilling in the middle of the map because you've seen his adepts. You're both kind of there. You get these 4 adepts out, and then you really just kind of bully him back onto his side of the map because he can't, engage those adepts, and he's also worried about you diving in. And we see Deer here has absolutely 0 scouting. If you look at his vision, he hasn't seen anything, and now he loses both adepts for just one of your adepts. And this is
like
such
4
a great
adepts.
opening.
Yeah, 4 adepts is usually a bit better than 2 adepts to a stalker. Like, if you get opponent's adepts, you can deny all the scouting, and it's just really awkward for the player with like 2 adepts to stalkers. Like, it feels weird to play.
Yeah, he's so blind, and I think that really plays into this next part as well, right? Because look, your vision is just absolute. You see everything that's going on in this base. You're like, oh yeah, he's gone 2-gate Robo and a Nexus. Like, this is the most like standard macro opening. So like you're just so confident at home. Like, look at your base. You've got 1 sentry, warping in a 2nd sentry, no other units, and you don't need them. So you can skip out on making a 3rd gateway or stalkers or whatever other generic safety things you might want. You know there's no DTs this early, right? So you just go warp prisms and blink straight away. And this allows you to just stay on his side of the map and keep the pressure on the entire time. Meanwhile, he's a little bit worried. Like, he doesn't really know exactly what's going on behind this, right? He has no vision except for those adepts. So he's making more adepts, he's making more stalkers, he's investing on all these basic units while you're furthering your tech. So I feel like this opening here was just like a textbook scenario for you. Obviously you executed fantastically as well. It's not like, oh, this is a build order win, but it just gave you a few small edges, and then you just played like a perfect kind of macro game behind it.
Yeah, this also comes down to what I said earlier, like, Dia has no vision. So he couldn't like just put on a Twilight. I mean, he could have, but it would have been risky. So he put on like the 3rd gate and like built like Immortal first as well, I think. So like either like he was planning to become aggressive on this map, which is popular, or he was just really scared and not sure what to do.
And once again, the sentry snipe here, getting 2 sentries for an adept and a bit of warp prism hit points. This is like just you continuing to just get these nice trades. And back at home, only now are you kind of like, okay, cool. Like, I've got my tech up. I'm adding a 3rd gateway. I'm adding 2 gases. Your blink is almost done. You're starting immortal production after the 1 immortal observer. So you're just, up a couple of workers. You're in this really nice position. And this is you just playing basically as greedy as you can while still being safe, because you saw exactly what was going on and doing little bits of damage as well. And now it comes to this very interesting part where he starts doing this push. And this is always very scary for a lot of players. So just talk us through your defense here. What are the most important things to focus on?
So like this push on this map is really strong because usually the opponent has like a lot more sentries, and you can just like force fill the entire army. And it's like really, really hard to deal with actually. But in this game, he lost 2 sentries to my Warp Prism Adept, and another one just walked into an overcharge, just like a mistake by him. So his push is like a lot weaker than it should have been. Like I might have been in trouble if he had all his units, but in this case it's just like a rather easy defense for me.
So do you think, let's imagine he doesn't lose those sentries to the adepts, he keeps them safe in the main base or something like that earlier at the natural. And do you think maybe you were, like, if you did lose a bit more units there, took a bit more damage, would you say, okay, maybe you were being slightly too greedy here? Maybe you should have gone like a slightly faster third gateway or something? Would there be anything that you'd change up if that happened?
I think it's still fine what I did. Like, it's a bit hard to say, but usually if we have 2 pylons at the front, you're kind of safe. And the biggest deal in this game was really that my prism was out on the map, and he would just like walk through the middle, right? So if I have my prism at home and I can like micro against the force fields as well, then I'm pretty sure I can defend even if I have like a lot of sentries.
Yeah, so the warp prism being at home, giving you that kind of improvised blink, I guess is what we could call it, actually does make a huge difference, especially when you're dealing with such a tight choke point where, you know, you get an immortal accidentally force fielded out front or something, not being able to pick that up could have just lost you the game, or made you take a lot of damage at least. So he goes here for, you know, 2 very different styles. We get to see kind of a clash of the meta. We get to see an older, big adept timing attack, and in his case, it's actually a 3-gas timing attack as well. This is like really masses of adepts. He actually could have... He's only gone 7 gates. I'm surprised he doesn't go 8 gates since he's skipping a gas, but he's spending his money. Whatever. So yeah, he comes in with this huge attack. Let's pause here. And you've kind of just gotten wind of this recently. And I guess let's just play. So 3, 2, 1, play. And you're very conservative with your overcharge, I notice. You
yeah, like for me, like at this point, I'm not really sure if I can defend the third base because there's like so many adepts. So I pop like 1 overcharge, which like probably was a mistake, but as I said, I wasn't sure what to do exactly. And then I just pulled back and gave up the third base, which pretty much won me the game, I think.
Yeah, we end up having like a really, you know, close engagement here. And this game is actually, this gets so close. But great overcharges, and I believe you're using hold position here, right? To make sure your units don't move forward into the choke point and then get force field and cut off. You're also doing really good shade micro there to block his adepts from all just diving into your main base and forcing you out of position. So that's a couple of really good moves there from you. And as he kind of moves in, you know, he's got to move into the convex. A lot of his units are stuck behind each other. They can't fight. The pylon is getting a lot of damage. So really, I guess the secret here is just try to have your units pre-spread in that concave and then hold position them and just use your overcharges. And, you know, even if some of your units are stuck behind, don't panic and A-move. Because then your units will kind of like, you know, you got to be very careful with A-moving, right? Like, do you grab your units and A-move whenever he comes in just to try and get them to move forward just slightly to try and all be attacking?
I think I do, yeah. Like, most macros really just keep it in the concave and try to force field parts of his army off. That's pretty much the most important, and if he comes in, just like blinking back the weak stalkers and trying to get your units to fight. That's pretty much what I do.
Nice. And you end up, it's so funny because it looks like you've held here for a moment, but then it's like, well, those disruptors are on cooldown for a bit. And he actually almost breaks through here. And you actually have to pull
like the 1 immortal, killing so much.
10 kill immortal. He's just racking him up, man. Oh man. Did you think maybe you might lose at this point? Were you kind of freaking out a bit, or were you still pretty confident? I mean, it was a pretty important match. I'm just like curious in the moment. Can you remember if you were like panicking at all?
I was panicking out for sure. Like you can also see like the probes are not mining and just like falling apart a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was like super close. Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I thought that I lost, but I kind of held on for a bit, and then yeah, disruptors did some magic.
Yeah. I mean, disruptors are so good against these adept armies, and that's the style you were playing around. Is you were really playing for the longer game. He was playing for the I've got to kill you before you get these disruptors out. And your disruptors came out, you know, past the point where they're ideal when they've got a lot of supporting units with them, but they still end up getting value and just recycling. Adepts can't really kill disruptors on their own. They just can't, like, you know, if they dive on top of them, it's like, that's usually not going to do too well because of what we saw just there. Where you're like, oh, you're going to shade on top of me. I'll just fire a disruptor shot just as the shade's about to finish. kill the adepts and blast them down.
Yeah, you need like a lot of adepts to one-shot Disruptor. When it, like that's kind of the point where you can shade on top, but I think you need like 20 or something to one-shot a Disruptor.
Yeah, it's like 200 hit points, and then the adept does 10 damage because they're not light units. So yeah,
Yeah.
it also has an armor point, so it's going to take more than 20 unupgraded adepts to one shot a disruptor. So that's like, yeah, this is why we've seen before a few people. Actually, wasn't it Cyan who had a good PvP versus you at Mexico?
Oh yeah.
And it was on this map. I remember actually right where we finished this game, this replay. Towards the end, there was like a moment somewhere down here on the left of the map where he like shaded on top of a couple disruptors. And
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
yeah. Then you
he
lost
like
like
shoots
10
them,
or something.
and they're like, "Yeah, we're
Yeah.
still alive on yellow hit points," and like 30 disruptors, 30 adepts just died of the disruptor shots, and it was like, "Oh my god, what just happened?"
Yeah, I remember that.
That was brutal, man. That's sick. All right, guys. So we're